So I'm just gonna set the scene for you. To my left, I see lines of protesters wearing these floor-length, very puffy down coats. And to my right, I see some additional protesters shoving tiny plastic fetuses into the hands of women as they walk by. In the air, I see really graphic photos of aborted fetuses, and I am questioning my decision to be part of the Clinic Defense Task Force. Some of the protesters are holding these gigantic yet portable posters of Mary, and I hear protesters shouting, "House of abortion, house of murder," and I am totally doubting this commitment. My roommates are 4 or 5 blocks away, fast asleep in our dorm room, and the contrast couldn't be more stark to me standing here in this sea of people shouting. And at that moment, a busload of college students rolls up to the Planned Parenthood clinic, files out of the bus, drops to their knees on the lawn in front of the Planned Parenthood, and begins praying. So I continue to really doubt this decision and ask myself, what am I doing here? So a year before, I'm sitting in a community center in Montgomery County. The walls are that institutional cinder block that community centers are always made from, and I'm wearing overalls and a t-shirt that I've puffy painted myself, an activity that I spend lots of time doing in high school. And I'm there for a B'nai B'rith girls meeting, BBG for short, one of our monthly mind, body, and attitude gatherings. It gets better. So the previous month, we'd learned how to make candles while the boys' chapters had played football. So I don't read any of the prep materials for that morning's presentation, so I'm a little surprised when I hear the presenter at the front of the room introduce herself. "Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I work for Planned Parenthood." I know what you're thinking. Is it a little weird that this pro-choice organization has sent a speaker to this Jewish youth group? The answer is not weird at all. In my progressive, liberal, Jewish bubble that is Montgomery County, Maryland, this was totally normal. I didn't think anything of it. So we're learning a little bit more about what Planned Parenthood does, and I am riveted. I take in everything Jennifer has to tell us. I take every planning is power button she's giving out, and I scribble my AOL email address onto her sign-in sheet. So the next year, I arrive on the college scene, complete with JanSport backpack and matching color-coded spiral-bound notebooks with coordinating pens for each of my new classes. I decide to take a stroll to the first-year student activities fair, and I arrive at the GW Student Center. The walls are lined with tables from each of the organizations attempting to recruit new members. To my left, the GW Rock Climbing Club is pushing mini carabiners. To my right, GW's own emo a cappella group, Emo Capella. Yeah, I thought you'd like that. And in the center, I am greeted by a gigantic papier-mâché vagina. So it's standing next to the feminist student organization table, and I think to myself, okay, it's cool. I wanted to be involved in reproductive rights and feminist organizing on campus, but this gigantic vagina is kind of freaking me out. I'm still pretty fired up from my BBG brush with Planned Parenthood the year before, and being the sort of self-starting, strong-willed millennial that I am, I decide to start my own chapter of Planned Parenthood on campus. The following week, I'm called on by the other feminist student organization in the form of a text message from my friend Kate. She has an asymmetrical haircut. The text message reads, "The anti-choice people are out. Human shield at H and 25th. See you there." I think to myself, I don't want to go there. That's not my scene. I'm not interested in that type of controversial setting. And I know what it's going to look like. There's going to be linking arms. There's going to be shouting across protesters. I don't want anything to do with it. So I always say you catch more bees with honey. So the following week, my student organization hosts a tabling event on the quad. To get more email addresses for our listserv, I dress up like a gigantic chocolate chip cookie. And we distribute cookies and condoms to students that walk by. Yeah. And it works. We get tons of emails. I'm actually an email collection pro for about a year and a half. And the organization is going strong. We have tote bags with our logo on them. People are loving it. Sophomore year rolls around. The organization is still strong, it's going well, but people are itching for more ways to get involved. So I begin researching clinic defense volunteer work. And I knew that there was violence at family planning clinics, but I just didn't know so much about the pro-choice response. So as I learn more, I think this seems kind of controversial, potentially not my scene, but I want the group to succeed, so when I get an email advertising, clinic escort training this Saturday, bring a friend, I sign up. The next week, I arrive at the training and find myself once again in a community center learning about abortion. The person to my left is the retiree who has devoted every weekday of his retirement to escort men and women in and out of the Planned Parenthood clinic. The person to my right is the reproductive rights lobbyist who decides to volunteer 1 lunch hour a month to make sure folks stay safe at the clinic. And I leave the training actually feeling much part of the larger reproductive rights scene in DC, not just the little sort of slice of student organizing that I'd known on campus. So that's actually how I found myself at 8 a.m. on a cold January morning on the front lawn in front of Planned Parenthood. So again, I hear the protesters shouting, "God hates you, you're a sinner." And I see the plastic fetuses, and there's the anti-choice pamphlets. And again, I question, am I gonna be able to spend the next 3 hours in this super sort of confrontational, scary environment without a breakfast sandwich? What am I gonna do? So I see out of the corner of my eye, one of my fellow escorts actually guide a patient from the sidewalk into the clinic. I watch as another escort actually uses her body to shield a patient into the clinic past the protesters who are now almost blocking the clinic entrance. And I sort of stand there and feel bad that I haven't really jumped in. So eventually I muster the courage up to actually escort a patient from the sidewalk to the clinic door. She's holding a toddler on her hip and with one hand, and an anti-choice pamphlet shoved at her by the protesters in her other hand. So we're walking, I get her safely to the clinic entrance. I hold my tongue while the protesters yell at her in both English and Spanish. She gets inside safely, and I realize that I really love being a clinic escort, and I'm there actually to help people access services, not to argue and not to change minds. And that was actually what was satisfying to me. So I returned to the clinic almost every Saturday morning for the next 3 years. And at first, I was really angry by the protesters and their whole sidewalk counseling thing. And then I was really confused by them. Their strategy didn't really seem to work, and I didn't really agree with it. And then the longer I was an escort, the more blurry it all got. And I realized that we actually had something in common. We were all there because of our faith, but they only kind of knew this faith-based expression of the sidewalk counseling, and we came from totally different worlds. So I came from a world where my parents made being pro-choice as normal as breathing, a world where my Hillel director actually sponsored an event where I brought rabbis to campus to talk about reproductive rights, a world where my Jewish youth group introduced me to the issue to begin with, and a world where I was motivated by religious liberty and individual decision-making, not a fear of going to hell or being a sinner. So in the end, I really was able to notice that the protesters and I were all there actually from the same faith-based place, and then we met again on the sidewalk.